might recognize the scene I'm about to describe. There's an older woman with white hair sitting in a dark set, and her name's Bryony, and she's sitting in front of an interviewer. And he's asking her questions about a book that she's about to release. And we would think that this is a joyous moment, but instead we see that she's very stressed out, and you see that she's having a hard time explaining what the book is about. And apparently this book is about the events surrounding the time that she falsely accused her housekeeper's son Robbie of raping her cousin Lola. And this false accusation eventually separates him from the love of his life, which is her sister Cecilia. And for those of you who do not know where this scene is from, it's from the 2007 drama romance film Atonement, a movie in which you find out basically most of what you just saw was a complete lie. So I chose this artifact for my rhetorical criticism, and I used generative and narrative criticism. And specifically for narrative criticism, I looked at several elements of the story, which were setting, characters, narrator, events, temporal relations, causal relations, audience, theme, and type of narrative. I won't go over all of these. I'll just talk about a few of them. Specifically for narrative criticism, I had to see how each of these elements advance the objective of the narrative. And I found the objective to be to elevate individual fiction, or Bryony's fiction, over actual reality, and this led to my research question. How do the different elements of Atonement promote the postmodern notion of individual fiction over actual reality? The first element is setting. Atonement is set in England before and during World War II, and then towards the end it fast forwards to current times with an older Bryony. And we see that the time before the war is very hot. It's the middle of the summer. You see passion. It's very sensual. And then the war comes, and then the cold times come. And this same war is what actually separates Bryony from the rest of the characters. And because she's separated from them, she never truly understands the suffering that they went through because of her false accusation. And this is similar to the idea of pragmatic truth, which says that the truth is forever hidden from us. The second element is narrator. As the narrator, Bryony sort of controls the story, and she has two very distinctive characteristics, which are her innocence, and she's also very practical, and these two work together to form her point of view. And this point of view guides the story so much, the audience doesn't even realize when the movie switches to the story of her book rather than, what actually is happening. And there's this huge emphasis on storytelling in the movie, and it's similar to postmodernism. It seems that Bryony almost becomes a literary scholar in Atonement. The third is events. We see that in the movie, Robbie and Cecilia eventually get back together and resume the love story, only to find out in the end this never happened. Robbie died of septicemia, and Cecilia drowned during the war, and Bryony never even went to confess the truth to them. So it's like the audience is invested in all of these events during the movie, only to find out they were all fictional. And it's like the events the audience never actually saw, the ones that actually happened, were unimportant compared to the ones that Bryony created. Causal relations. There's a time before and after Bryony's lie in the movie, and it seems that light works to show the progression of these events and the time before and after. And light also kind of represents truth in the movie. For instance, when Bryony catches Marshall, who's the guy who actually rapes her cousin, she drops her flashlight, and the light lands facing her instead of Marshall, and it kind of represents that she's now in possession or accountable for the truth. And she never loses this until towards the end of the movie, she's sitting in a train, and the light's flickering in and out, and then it flashes forward to her older version in a completely dark set, and the truth is being revealed. And she's finally having some sort of peace in her life, but it's only because she revealed her version of the truth. Audience. The audience might feel a little deceived watching this movie and finding out that most of what they saw never really happened, but audiences are also suckers for a good romance, like Casey talked about in her presentation. No one wants to watch harsh, pessimistic reality in their movie. They want a good ending. And that's why there's a little satisfaction in knowing that Bryony, who's actually the one that separated Cecilia and Robbie in the first place, worked to create her own happy ending and give a good ending to the story. The last one I'll talk about is theme. Atonement is in itself a very religious word, and it kind of symbolizes the reconciliation between God and man. And in Atonement, Bryony is sort of like this godlike character who controls a lot of things. And you can see her sacrificing these things to kind of atone for what she did. She gives up her social status, all of her leisure time, because she's a very wealthy person. She even gives up her identity. And this kind of shows that it's altruistic of her to give up all of these things to atone for what she did, even to the point of making up her own happy ending. So Atonement is a film that's the perfect example of how a narrator can control a story, guide it, and even change it with one single action. And Atonement also seems to shrink the impact of reality and uses the book that Bryony wrote to create hope for audiences. That's what I found.